Let's try it. Let's give it a shot. Give it the old college try. All right. I'm looking up at Matthew.
Live.
You say confirm and go live, then hit the button, and then I hit the audio.
You are live.
Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. So glad you're with us to stay curious. Marty is efforting from out of town, putting a show together here, as all of us know. You know, you've seen me do it. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing to watch. Literally, sometimes at 3 o'clock, we start putting the program together because of my duties. But Dave Stange says we're loud and clear, and blast off there with RG Jubilee on another adventure. Thank you all for joining us on this little social time with space lovers all over the world. And we're so glad to have Matthew Raj on our console today in our Streamlabs studio right here in the American Space Museum in downtown Titusville. Matthew is one of our employees that's doing a great job, and putting up with me is part of his job, and we're doing a good job here. Hello, Robert Law up in Dundee, Scotland. Glad that you're there. And Steve Jokums, thanks to you, buddy. I got your little package of all those race drivers yesterday and hadn't shot you an email. Such as the busyness that I do here is so much fun. I walk in the museum and have a lot of plans to accomplish this and that. But the most important people are the ones that come through the door. And Anita Truex, our office coordinators, always saying, Mark, there's somebody out here you need to meet, or one of the docents says you need to shake hands with this person. They worked on the shuttle, and you are the most important people out there because of me shaking your hands for the first time here, we become good friends. So we're going to talk about our auction that's very important to us. If you don't have a little light in the wallet and don't have any money for our auction Saturday, you watch it anyway. You're going to get an education like none other of how much some of these space relics are really worth. And some are expensive, some aren't. But our auctioneer, Chuck Jeffrey, you're going to see pictures of him. He targets $100. Why sell anything for unless it's at least $100? And then the American Space Museum gets a percentage of that. And I'll talk about that all here in a minute. There's our Saturday auction lined up there. Marty, everything's working good. He's on the phone over there with Raj. So thank you, sir. And all I have to remember to go out is turn the microphone off and hit 9. So we'll do that on there. So you can stay on if you want, Marty. This is our 38th auction. I joined the museum about auction 5, maybe auction 4, but I was very involved in 6 through about 20. And then Chuck Jeffrey, our auctioneer, made it a business. Their QR code will take you to where bids are being taken right now. If you think you can buy that Neil Armstrong photograph of Buzz Aldrin on the moon and give us, say you'll go $500, you put that $500 in there right now on the website, the auction page, and if it only gets up to $400, that's what you get it for, okay? So you want your maximum bid up there, what you're willing to go, and then you're watching live. You don't even have to watch it if the bid wins. But if you're watching live and someone does go 500, maybe you'll go 525, maybe you go 550. So that's how it works. Some really cool items we're going to see close-ups of. But we'd be remiss if we didn't say, finally, the Falcon 9 with the brand new Axiom spacecraft built, Axiom 4 crew in the brand new SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft, yet to be named. The weather's 90% go for it, 2:31 a.m. And friends like us, our ESA rep, Alex Carl, have been like a yo-yo back and forth. Do they stay or do they go? All right, like a Clash song. Should I stay or should I go? And Alex finally went back yesterday, but he was seeing the families and so forth here. From his ESA job in Cologne, Germany. So glad you made it back, Alex. There's the official Space Force, the 45th wing of the Space Force out there. Patrick Henry Air Force Base are the official people, a 24-hour delay only gives it a 75% chance to launch, and then 48-hour delay, a little better 20. So we hope we get it off. I hope I lose a little bit of sleep. Carlton Bailey, hope your remotes work out right and you got a few pictures for us there. And there's greetings from Colorado there. Our buddy Mitch Rothman, got a picture of Mitch, sure do, right there. Mitch and his manned space, NASA manned space on Facebook, is helping us raise money for the renovation of what we're going to rebrand as the ASM Space Store. And Matthew Raj here on the console is very involved in that with me, with planning what we're going to do. And Mitch, when you walk in, you won't believe it, but thank you for raising money for us with your influencers out there. And we've gotten a one healthy donation, and you can contribute by going to our website. I put Mitch in there, and then I've got the Axiom crew in there. So I'll tell you about our website here in a minute. There's the Axiom crew up there. Thank you, Mitch, for helping us. So you'll see our website here in a minute. There's a yellow button to donate. You can even pull down and make sure the money goes to the Space Memorabilia Store renovation. We're going to rebrand it as the ASM Space Shop, maybe Space Store. If I get into some copyright violations, there is a Space Store out there somewhere. But we've got a lot of stuff that we want you to share, and we'll eventually get all that up on a website store and our eBay store that comes and goes depending on how busy we are doing that. So there's our execution. There's the crew. Peggy Whitson and 3 rookies from Europe. The Indian astronaut on the left. Kabul, they call him. I got the crew right here. Handy. Let's talk about these gents here. That's Sukla, his last name. And then Sawaz is the ESA astronaut there from, I want to say Poland. Yeah, he's Poland. And then we've got a Hungarian astronaut on the right. They're all 3 rookies, so we'll go from 633 to 636. Peggy's 5th flight. She just came back from her first flight, STS 3 Aces, 111, 23 years ago. She is 65 years old, the most experienced NASA or American astronaut. Now, she retired over 5 years ago from NASA working for Axiom, and that's how she got into the Hall of Fame, still being an active astronaut, defined as you left NASA 5 years ago. There's Marty's picture that he took on a bus tour out there, my buddy Marty. So we use that as our background screen there. The Falcon 9 rocket, I believe this is its 2nd flight. Somebody correct me on that. And Jim McDade says every town needs a space store, and you got a good one there in Huntsville, Alabama, my friend. Tom Celentano is saying hello to you, Tom. And howdy, everyone. Jim McDade and Dave Stangy's looking for an 8x10 picture of the LEM 12, Marty, sitting on the surface. I'll see if we can effort that for us there. Of course, that's LEM number 6 tail numbers on there. So, and let's see, you're napping off and on so you can do the overnight launch, Carlton. Well, he gets up from his afternoon nap for Stay Curious, and we appreciate that, my buddy. But we love his picture. Very unusual picture out there on pad 39A with the Crew Dragon there, the walkway that the astronauts go to get in the hatch, and some lucky people looking down on it on the launch tower there. So it has been out on the pad for a long, long time, and we hope everything goes great. Of course, the delay has been on the International Space Station. Axiom wants to have this sort of configuration dock to the International Space Station someday. That's the Kibo module. You see the Japanese red sun. And they wanted to put up the first piece of it this year. I think it was going to be an Atlas or a New Glenn rocket by Blue Origin was supposed to put it up there. And they were going to do 3 or 4 segments and then put a power station on it. And all of this in here is not on the space station. That's Axiom's dream that has been keep changing what it's going to look like, but they want to create a small space station, put a power plant of solar panels on it, separate from the ISS, and then use it for science and even tourism with that beautiful cupola on the bottom there. Well, let's talk a little bit about the auction, but I can't talk about the auction without talking about this great financial supporter of the museum, Mr. Chuck Jeffrey. There's his business, Bid Again Auctions. He, like me, have benefited greatly from the American Space Museum, our affiliation, in the people that we know and the influencers that we've both become. And I'm very blessed and humbled to say that I guess you could consider myself an influencer, but we're trying our things like Shuttle Fest and our memorabilia show to raise money for the museum, but also an awareness of what we do like no other, preserving the birth of America's space age right here in its delivery room, Brevard County. There is Mr. Chuck Jeffrey. He's fashioning a mustache these days, but that's a picture I took of him a few years ago. How important has Chuck's contributions been to our museum and the auctions and his other in-kind donations? Almost $1 million in donations the last year. 9 years that Chuck can say. He has gotten some of his clients to donate money for our air conditioning units and our floor and our roof and on, as well as giving personal money out of his checks from his business to keep ourselves going. And we honor him with his business, Diversified Systems. That is a home security system that's been around long before those doorbell security systems come in vogue. But without his financial support, we probably would be open by appointment only. I cannot underestimate how this man has really passionately, like me, embraced this museum. There he is going through a collection. Don't forget the woman's name, but she's the typical person that he will analyze for free, even online. He'll look at that Neil Armstrong Museum if you email it to him here, and he will, there's how to get a hold of him. Send what you may have, suspect it's real or whatever. He'll let you know, and if he doesn't know, and he's going to ask around. But Chuck, his influence is incredible, and truly he has documented over $900,000 through the auctions in the last 9 years to keep, and his in-kind donations from his friends of his business. He's lucky that he deals with wealthy people in Orlando that want serious security systems, okay? And then they may have a 36-inch TV that they bought a 48-inch and said, we don't know, install that for us, Chuck, with the security system, and go take the old one and do what you want. Guess what? He's given those monitors and so forth to us over the years. So he's just acquired a $15,000 worth of security cameras in high definition color to revamp our security system in there. But there's Chuck with a big collection of stuff there. He's honest with you, almost brutally honest, okay? There he is on a TV show, local newscasters in our mission control. Mercury Gemini Gallery. That mission control sign came off the Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral, actually, property of the original mission control. That was on a back door on the second floor underneath the meatball that came down there. We've got a picture of that up there. So, love you, Chuck. You can't, I mean, nobody will ever do more for this museum than Chuck Jeffrey, and he continues to do so. There he is with other collection expert, Ken Havicott. His business is Space Memorabilia. You look him up under Space Coast Covers, and Chuck is on Collect Space. Go to the Space Coast Covers section, and he always has great stories with his postal covers of the missions and so forth. But this man is one of the world-renowned collector, not only collectors but experts. I ain't even going to tell you what he has because it's proprietary, but he has got a fortune in good stuff, and he just don't have 3 or 4 crew signed Apollo 11 photos that are each worth $3,000 to $5,000. He's got more than a few of them, and all the significant missions and stuff. So honored that these men both taught me enough about space memorabilia to be dangerous. And I do know my stuff about some of the basic things, but when it comes to patches, particularly patches that crews took to the moon, and autographs, and even Chuck, we're always consulting Ken Havikat there for what is real and what is not. So it's a buyer beware world out there, okay? But we want you to know you can buy with confidence at the American Space Museum. Everything has been vetted at this auction. Ken will even look at Chuck's auction and say, you say you have a Werner von Braun real autograph there. Well, that's actually Autopan. And he knows his stuff to correct us out there. So even experts make a mistake every now and then. But we're very honest with the opinions. We had a show one time, Raj, where we tore up Apollo autographs like Gene Cernan's and Buzz Aldrin's and Neil Armstrong's. We tore them up in front of you because they were fake. And Chuck gets his hands on fake stuff. He's ruthless. We have taken people to court to stop them from selling their forgeries, all right? And they're not too happy when Chuck comes a calling and saying you got a forgery and I'll prove it, because he'll rip it up in front of your face. And we don't want that garbage out there is why we do it. So let's look at some of the cherry pieces we have in there. How about first lunar landing? Buzz Aldrin signed that. Now he's 96 now and 95, I think, and nobody is taking his autograph anymore. It's too it's just not Buzz anymore. But this was probably in his 70s or 80s, all right. But still worth $300 to $500 all day long, because it's on what we call in the business the visor shot. Because in the visor is Neil Armstrong and lunar module number 5 of Grumman's, and Neil's shadow in front of him there. Buzz's shadow coming out to him, you see there in the visor. So we call that the visor shot. And it by itself on a photographic piece of A Kodak paper can sell for $300 or $400, and you add Buzz's picture to it, signature to it there, and he's worth $300 to $500 all day long. So I expect this to maybe go for $1,000, hopefully at least $500. And there's Neil Armstrong's X-ray of his boots that we have a copy of here in our museum. Why would the boots be X-rayed? And why is this the only memento of Neil Armstrong on the moon? They should have brought one of those boots back. It would be worth, all the tea in China, as they say. Well, the people who built the moon suits, and there's where the education is of these things. The people that built the moon suits were International Latex Corporation, better known to you ladies as Playtex, okay? They were the most professional and experienced seamstresses in the world. They got the bid, and when they made the moon suits by hand, each one custom fitted to each of the 12 moonwalking astronauts, and you had 12 other men that orbited the moon. They x-rayed everything in case they left a needle or a pin in them, because that would be bad news on the moon to have a leak sprung out by a pin or a safety pin or a needle that a seamstress left in there. So who'd have thunk that, Raj? Nobody, to think the things that they thought through to make sure stuff didn't happen. We've got to x-ray that. And I've heard the stories about this, and maybe you folks have too, when ILC Dover, which is in Dover, Delaware, I believe, how are we going to x-ray this? All right. And they go like, well, let's talk to the hospital. How do they x-ray a full suit? And they literally put a suit on a gurney and would take them in there off hours at one of the hospitals and use their x-ray machine, their technicians, to x-ray stuff like this. Yeah, Raj is going, wow, what a thing on there. I don't know how to use your microphone there. I think you just push it on there. Yeah. Say hi to everybody, Raj, there.
Hey, everybody.
Matthew, Raj. Yeah, isn't that a good story, Matthew?
Oh, that's
Did
fabulous.
Did you ever hear? Do you see your?
I've always wondered what they've used to do that.
Yeah, they didn't have a NASA X-ray machine. They just went to the local hospital, and so that's a cool thing. Cheryl Armstrong was an executive secretary at Johnson Space Center. She was one of the lead ladies out there. This is her piece of tile from STS-1 presented to her personally. Now, this is the kind of thing that what are the average things to collect? And I'll do a show on that one day, because you'd like to have a piece of STS1 tile, and there's a bunch of them out there in Lucite. This will go for $100, $150, $200 maybe. Coming from her, it's just not Joe Blow or Jane Blow. It's a very important person that we've sold a lot of her stuff on there. So you go to our American Space Museum, up at the top, auction. It'll take you to this page. You just click auction bidding site. By the way, up there in the upper right-hand corner, the yellow button is how to make a donation. And you can donate to Stay Curious if you want. Like Dave Stange has, and helped us buy another microphone with his donation. And then that takes you to this site where we're using the Neil Armstrong X-ray as the artwork for it. But this is called Invaluable Auctions, that Bid Again Auctions is using as the clearinghouse. Auction houses, small ones, assemble everything, and then they load them up on a big boy, because they handle everything. So this is our new auction going up here. You explore the auction for free, okay, and then register to bid. And this was done a few hours ago, 3 days, 20 hours, 31 minutes, all right? So I did this about 2:30 today. Now, first what you see, you're going to see over 350 lots, I think there are. So 1 lot a minute is a good flow. So 350 lots, it's going to take about 6 hours, all right? And Chuck will probably be done somewhere after 5 o'clock, between 5 and 6 o'clock. Obviously, some of them go quick. Things that don't sell, he hits the hammer. Things that don't meet minimum bid, people can give us things like astronaut Woody Spring. I see he has artwork in there. You can give us stuff that you say, I want $500 out of it, or I don't want to sell it. And Chuck will do that. So have so it doesn't meet the bids and will not sell. He'll hit that. He is going once, going twice, final, gavel, sold. So something that'd be fun to have are these pile of pins. There you see a pile of hard to find decals, shuttle ear emission patches up there in the upper right, like 100 of them. But we always want $100 out of this stuff, okay? All right. So we're going to go through some of these lots, kind of a little bit in order, but some randomness. Left to right there, you got a flown patch on a mission, STS-63's patch. A lot of space workers, and this lady Cheryl Gwynn was given this. And in fact, that's got the payload patch on the right that we have in our museum, that STS-57 flew the same space hab. And we've got that in our workers gallery. Here are a bunch of mission handbooks, okay, usually sell for $40 or $50 each, from Apollo 14, the ASTP, and I can't tell what the other one is. So then you've got STS-103, a Hubble repair mission there, top, the third one from the right. That is a full crew signed, numbered photograph, all right? Now, you go about $20 in astronaut autographs. So you got 7 astronauts, 20 times, that's $140. And these all aren't these astronauts are rarely at the same place at the same time. So whoever got this may have gone to different events to see them, like Shuttle Fest, and picked up John Grunsfeld there. And Scooter's in the middle there, Scott Altman. But about $20 each, so that'd make it $140, and then you throw $100 on for the whole crew. So that's $200 to $300, and Chuck's estimate is $100 to $500 there. Somebody might pay a lot. We've seen bidding wars of these before, Raj, because let's say you want all 135 crew astronaut signed lithographs or photographs. Of course, 51L is going to be hard to get, and so is 107, the Columbian Challenger.
Right.
But if it's the one to complete your collection, you might say, I'll pay $600 for it. Does this complete my collection? And we've seen some crazy numbers. I've helped Chuck and was sitting beside him at many auctions. And I said, what's going on here, man? These guys are bidding back on a cruise sign thing that should be worth a couple hundred, and it's up to like $800. And he said they're both wanting to complete their collection. Plus, sometimes with the deceased astronauts, like Janice Voss, for one, that was on 5 missions, you'll never, of course, get her autograph on it again. The upper right hand, there's a full cruise signed 91. Hard to find Snoopy space set from NASA and McDonald's. Okay, set of 4. Who'd have thought that if on the Willow Raft? If you got that in your Happy Meal as a kid and kept those, or got for your kids. There's an STS-95 cruise sign cover. Now that will go for a lot because that's the John Glenn mission. And to have everybody on there with Kurt Brown, the commander, I'm talking about this one right here. It's got some other nice things in there. Looks like a cruise signed envelope too. And so that should go for a good $300-400. Cruise signed photographs with additional astronauts there. There you got a couple there. 13 astronauts signed the one on the lower right. Again, $20 an astronaut times 13 should go for $300-400. Now, if we gave that to Chuck to sell because it's in our collection and we'll never show it to anybody, why not make money off of it? We get 100% of that. If Matthew, running the board here, gave that to sell, he would get a negotiated fee with Chuck, and I can openly say it's going to be at least 70%, okay? And then Chuck keeps 30%. But we add a 20% auction fee to that for the charity part of the museum. So if something's sold for $100, you're going to pay $120 plus shipping. And if Raj owned it, he's going to get 70, Chuck 30, and us $20 out of the thing. If we own the whole thing, we're going to get 100%, and Chuck's just going to take 20% instead of 30. So it's a very fair system, and he is super fair with you. If you've got some things that you think are worth money, get a hold of him. I should go rewind this. I've got his number up there for you to show. Books, of course, are very popular. Though I've got so many books to read. Look at that stack over there, Raj. Every doggone one of them I need to read. But when I'm talking about up there on the wall up there. Yeah. So some of those I have read. But The Way of the Explorers, Dr. Edgar Mitchell's talk about his flight on Apollo 14 walking on the moon and then forming his Noetic Institute of Parapsychology, and it embraces UFO and ESP and those sort of parapsychology thing is what Apollo 14 Edgar Mitchell was all about, and his Noetic Institute is still alive and well. Return to the Moon is Harrison Schmidt's signed book. He doesn't sign much else except this book written over 30 years ago, and it talks about, I know how to go to the moon. You fire everybody at NASA over 30 years old, and because they ain't learning nothing new, and you embrace the new technology. He was saying that 20 years ago. Harrison Schmidt's very hard autograph to get because he only likes doing it as books. He's not like Charlie Duke out there in the public. He sticks to academia usually for his appearances, and he and Charlie Duke are going to hit 90 years old. Schmidt in July, Charlie in October. They're the youngest of the 4 living moonwalkers at age 90, with Buzz being 96 and Dave Scott at 92. One of my favorite books is Wally Schirra's Space. I really like that book. It's one of my favorite reads. Some fun gotcha stories in there where Wally and Shepard were always trying to get one up on each other. And signed by him, that's a good book. Buzz Aldrin, Reaching for the Moon, is a children's book. I've got that one signed. Jim Irwin's Destination Moon. He's passed away, the first moonwalker to pass away of a heart attack in his 50s, some 30 years ago. Sally Ride's book, Back to Space, To Space and Back, her journey. And then her book with her partner in life, Tam O'Shaughnessy, the Mystery of Mars. She was, of course, married to Stephen Hawley, and then Tamara O'Shaughnessy and her were together the last 30 years of her life, something that was revealed in her obituary, though, of course, insiders knew about that relationship, which was a very beautiful one. Shaughnessy's written a lot of wonderful books without Sally and with her, and keeps her legacy going. NASA Northrop T-38 in Mae Jamison's book. Saw Story Musgrave. I'll show you a picture of Story tomorrow at our executive director, Gabriel Rothblatt's Space Development Conference over the weekend. But Story wrote that as the most experienced T-38 pilot ever. And looking at our auction, again, you can download the app on my phone. I have it from Invaluable Auctions. I have it going on my smart tablet. I get educated every time, and I'm flabbergasted sometimes at how things go more than we thought it would. And then sometimes I'm surprised that, oh my gosh, Chuck had to sell that for just $100. Man, I wish I'd bid on it because I know I could double my money on it. So there you got the Buzz Aldrin at the upper left, Michael Collins, X-15 pilot Scott Crossfield, one of the more famous X-15 pilots. I believe he's got astronaut wings for going above the Air Force line of 50 miles. Then we've got some things signed by Jerry Griffith, signed photographs. He was a NASA flight director. Okay. Gene Kranz, of course, is the famous one, but Jerry Griffin took his turn on Apollo 11, as did 3 other flight directors, and I'm not going to try to pull them out of my hat. But then you got another Jerry and Milton Windler, and I am not familiar with Milton Windler, but I know he was one of the Johnson Space Center key people. Chris Kraft signed the Apollo 15 photo. Very famous on that. Apollo 13 photo signed by Jerry Griffith. And then, excuse me there if you hear me a little bit of gastro activity going here. Apologize for that. Michoud Saturn V SIC logbook and reference manuals. Now, this is for the real aficionado out there, because this is a space worker's documentation of a Saturn V being worked on with their notes inside of some of the manuals that they used. And there are very niche people out there collecting certain things. Okay. Now, next up is, I see Dave Stang. He's been to McDonald's and has the Snoopy set there. So you see they're worth a little more. Tell Julie not to throw those away or let the grandkids play with them. Hey there, Cliff Watson in Pomona, Australia. How's your winter time going, buddy? He's just got the first days of winter under his belt, and I know it's been kind of rainy on the east coast of Australia where he is. Dougie Forrest is in Los Angeles, and Gary Gerald, he's my Vidalia onion man there, Raj. This guy's, and have you had any of them onions yet, buddy?
I haven't cut into them yet, but I'm looking forward to it. And thank you so much, Gary.
Yes, I've had them on. I don't eat much pizza, but I got a pizza and I chopped up some fresh onions on it there for you there. And they're sweet and they're delicious. And in fact, I gave some to launch director Mike Leinbach when I had dinner with him last Thursday, Gary. And he enjoyed them. He goes, boy, those are big. Those look good. He goes, I'm going to make some onion rings out of those. So Mike Leinbach launched the last 30-some shuttles, and I'm privileged that he's my friend, at least on a business sense there, that he'll let me buy him a meal every once in a while. And he promises to be on the show. He wants to come on the show, and we'll get him on here in the next couple weeks. Well, in the upper left, we got Jim Lovell signed photograph stuff. And Fred Hayes from Apollo 13. And, of course, Lovell is just 97 years old, I believe. Maybe, and that is all four astronauts signed the card there. Joe Kerwin signed a photograph and certified by the Astronaut Scholarship Foundation, okay, with a decal That's Kerwin on a spacewalk on his Skylab mission, and I got to meet him and shake his hand at age 92. Astronaut Kathy Thornton, signed photograph with certified astronaut scholarship foundation decal. Somebody bought this at the Scholarship Foundation to support them. Beautiful organization, does the Hall of Fame and so much more with school kids, college kids. Millions of dollars are given away. Kathy loves this about herself. She is tossing away, and that's her against the Earth, tossing away the solar panels of the shuttle after they replaced them on STS-61. And I need to get some more pictures of that for her to sign. Charlie Duke signed on there. The Voyage of All, I forget what that says on the outside there. Then you got Bob Crippen signed lithograph. Wally Schirra signed lithograph with a certificate of authenticity. Crew signed for the maiden flight of STS-49. And I got my eye on this, Raj, on the right there. That's Wally Schirra, Scott Carpenter, and Gordon Cooper signed that beautiful lithograph. It's actually a photograph of the Mercury capsule. And it just says Mercury spaceship in the upper left there.
Yeah.
And I might go with, Chuck says up to 500, and I might put a bid on that there.
Well, I'm rooting for you on that one.
Yep. Mercury stuff used to go really cheap, and then Chuck put a $100 minimum on it because we can't give away $60 Mercury autographs there. Next up, and hope you're enjoying looking at our auction. You can find it on our website. This is very important to raise money for our American Space Museum. I'm gonna be very transparent because we are a nonprofit. We make somewhere between $8,000 to $10,000 an auction, and then Chuck does one a year where all of the items are from the American Space Museum, and we could profit, a lot more on that. So we're very grateful for the contribution to it. The auction, we budget in our budget $60,000 a year coming from the auction. Now, where Chuck was given he was given the whole thing, the first 20. And doing it all for free, and he's getting in the age where he wants to not be crawling around walls and ceilings installing his security systems, and so he's adopting this as a business. And that I'm being transparent there. Hope to make $10,000 off this auction. Some are higher, some are lower, but that's the kind of doing this 6-7 times a year now. The design certification review of the space shuttle in 1979, which it flew, of course, in April. So this is a document that says everything is okay to build and go like this. Next is flown orbiter thermal insulation protective blankets from the 80s with scrap tags. That gives the provenance that this is what it says it is, okay? Very important. There's another flown heat shield from Cheryl. There's the flown heat shield from Cheryl Armstrong. That's lot 127. So if you want to bid on that, I said about a minute a lot. So you want to make sure if you miss the first hour mowing your yard or something, because this is what you want, come in about 90 minutes. This will probably be up, certainly 2 hours. It probably won't be up yet. 2 hours would be 120 lots. So yeah. Somewhere in there, so get in so you don't miss it. A film reel that's got NASA STS-1 rollout on it. Now, we do not preview these. We might look at the leader there to see if the images are what they say they are, but we do not run these through a machine for one reason only. We could damage it, all right, and it needs to be transferred maybe. But Apollo stuff, so someone might transfer it. But what is popular is vintage glass 70 millimeter slides from the lunar surface of Apollo 12. How do these get on glass? They didn't take like a Matthew Brady camera with glass from the Civil War up there. No, these were transferred off the original rolls of Hasselblad film, 120 millimeter, and then transposed in different mediums in the 1969-70 time frame. This was a November 69 mission, so they've been doing this in 1970 because this is the way to show slideshows back in the day. This would have been very high resolution on glass, okay, compared to film to transfer it on just Ektachrome or Kodachrome slides, 70mm slides. So there's Neil and Buzz, 70mm color positive. This is off of the camera that was in the pilots on Apollo 11. When Buzz went down the ladder, he'd already activated the camera. It was taking 1 frame a second of Neil's activities on the surface. And you could, that's the, you actually see him standing there. And then when they put the flag up, there's another original iconic image on glass slide of Buzz coming down the ladder. So those things do very well. Photography things are really hot. Now, just a couple more, 2 more pages here, 2 more slides to entice you. And Tommy Usiak's checking in, and he heard what I'm talking about, the slides, because part of his business, of his photo lab in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, was making copy negatives and copy slides for people. And the copy slides were for slides presentations and ectographic trays, okay? And I've got ectographic projectors. I got the 50-foot remote cord to push it during the presentations. And I've even dropped them, tripping over, and they all fall out. And oh my gosh, what an easy way our world is today. You don't understand how photography is just so clean. Me putting this together would be impossible any other way than cutting, pasting, and just loading them up. All right, let's look at these here. Upper left, Apollo 13 lunar surface map data sheet signed by Fred Hayes. So this is a piece of the map that he and Jim Lovell had in the lunar or lunar lander, and they were it was what they were going to use to look at the moon's surface. So Ken Havicott, I believe, offers these. He puts a good 50 or so lots in there. We're guaranteed 50 lots from the American Space Museum in every one of Chuck's auctions. There's the second item up there. This is the heat shield plug. Okay, this is a very popular thing to collect, one thing that you might want, along with some of the mylar off of one of the spaceships, particularly Apollo 11, or the cloth material that was used to fix the Skylab. They've people bought the bolt that was left over that they made the paracel out of and sell them on a card. NASA passed them out to employees on a card. That's another thing you want. So having a plug of a heat shield of any spacecraft is sort of you got to have that in your collection. And this what might go for, Chuck goes, $175 is the bid right now, but he thinks it could go up to $5,000. Actually, this is Apollo 13, all right? And even the heat shield was in question of 3 days being in intense cold. And did the explosion do any damage, Raj, to the heat shield? Was it cracked? It was such a what if, but yet, hey, if it is, it is, we got to come back anyway. We got to try. So this is a piece of really history there. And I think this would probably go for over $1,000. Don't know who owns that, though. And then NASA red numbered composite photographs of lunar activity. Okay. Didn't talk about NASA photographs may have red letters and numbers on them. And the numbers will start out with like AS 12 1507. Well, that will tell you it's off Apollo, AP. You have AP maybe, or maybe AS for Apollo service mission or whatever. And 12 would be for Apollo 12. And then you got the real number and the frame number and all kinds of stuff on there to tell exactly where it was. Well, these were the first photos distributed to the VIPs, the executives, the workers, and the press. And then they would do another batch of them to sell in the gift shops and so forth. And so you got to watch it because you might have a NASA You got to have that NASA logo in the upper left, and whether you have the meatball or just there'll be another NASA script on there. But if it's Apollo 11 and it's got the NASA worm logo on it, wait a minute. The worm logo came in 1975 after all the 6 Apollo landings. So that was a reprint after 1975, and it won't be as valuable. It'll be worth maybe $50, whereas an Apollo 11 from the era surface photo could go for as high as $200 or $300. These sell great, but we see the red letters even on the shuttle. Those are more special than any other non-red numbered and lettered, and sometimes the number and letters are black. But that indicates it was a VIP sort of a press run of. I mean, it still could be 10,000 of them printed each photo, but then they print out 200,000, for the public to consume. Upper right-hand corner, Apollo spacesuit material sample layup. So that's something unique, maybe up to $500. Skylab flown heat shield plug right here. Skylab 2 section with certificate of authenticity. That is the first crewed flight called Skylab 2. In the middle, this is kind of a cool thing to have. I've seen some of these, a parachute line cutter. This is the device that cuts the parachute loose. All right, I believe it's a pyrotechnics device. That is a cool thing. Flown hardware on a shuttle. And doesn't say in the cut line what shuttle, but there's detail there when you click it of what it's all about. How about STS-1 Flight Dynamics cue card used on the console? This was space flown right between Crippen and John Young, and that'll go for more than $500, I think. Apollo 12 flown Kapton foil from the Yankee Clipper with the certificate of authenticity. Kapton, obviously, you're not going to get anything off the lunar modules on the surface of the moon, because none of the astronauts that were on the surface of the moon, to my knowledge, ripped off a piece of it and stuck it in their suit. But I'll bet a lot of them thought that they're going like, why didn't I do that? Okay, because I think if I was a moonwalker, Raj, I would have put my initials on the moon. Okay. Deke Slayton wrote his daughter's name on the moon. Okay. Somebody tell me his daughter's name. Dave, I know Deke Slayton's daughter's name is written on the moon, not with a stick, of course, but with a tool. And I want to say Cindy. I want to say it begins with a C. I know Tom Usiak knows. I know Steve Jokums knows. That's something they'll share with me in a minute. But yes, Kapton foil is a silver foil that the frogmen stripped off the side from the reentry. And a lot of them that was left on there, some of it flaked off, but what was left was cannibalized a lot by frogmen. That's where it comes from. Looking for Deke Slayton's daughter. I said Deke Slayton. Gene Cernan's daughter that he wrote on the moon. And I want to say Kathy. Oh, nobody's come up with it there. Finally, yeah, Cernan, Stangy. I corrected myself there. Saying Slayton, thinking of Apollo Soyuz test project coming up there. Tracy, thank you. Thank you, Jokums. Tracy. He wrote Tracy in big letters on the moon, and I don't think he photographed it. All right. But you can go to Flickr, and every image that every astronaut took on the moon or orbiting the moon is on Flickr on their Apollo gallery there. So I might look for that. Last but not least are a few cool models. Up in the upper left, Apollo 11 official NASA red lettered photographs, just like I said, worth a lot more than others. Apollo 11 flown Kapton foil on Columbia certificate of authenticity with it. Just a little sliver that a frogman took off there. But, you got to watch this stuff. It just looks like regular foil sometimes that's gold. But that has probably a Ken Havocot or another certified it as real. That should go for $300 or $400. Boy, is this cool. One of my favorite rockets, Raj, out there at the space at Cape Canaveral is the Beaumark, which I found out over the weekend that Jamie Draper, director of the Sands Museum and everything out there at the Cape, said that's for Boeing Missile Aeronautic Research uh, Committee or Corp or something like that.
Okay.
But it's Boeing Missile Aeronautic Research. I forget what the C is. But this is a cool model seen in profile. It's got wings on it. Nice little erector set there. In fact, we do own that and gave that to Chuck to auction off. So we hope that he's got up to $1,000. Wouldn't surprise him. That is a real cool model. SpaceX Falcon 9 demo flown thread patch. All right. Then lower left, flown used shuttle insulator panel signed by astronaut Don Thomas. All right, that this was flown. And Don collects plugs. Don Thomas will be looking at that those two plugs, heat shield plugs, because he's kind of focused on that collection. How would you like to have a unique spacecraft model signed by Gary Harris? He actually made this model from scratch. That is a very cool model. We used to have it on display here on loan from Gary. And one-of-a-kind handmade metal fabricated astronaut model signed by artist Gary Harris, who's a spacesuit maker. This is similar, as you see, Raj, to the one that we have in our museum that he made, a full-length one. And finally, a jet fighter aviation helmet with headset, all right, that I'm not going to say who bequests that to the museum, but I didn't know it was worth $1,000. Okay, when I showed to Chuck, I thought, hell, $50, a couple $100 maybe on there. But he said this is really sought after. Already got 3 bids at $200 on that as of today. So, and you can get you a real heat shield off of the shuttle. And the VO number at the top and the size of it, I'll bet Terry White could tell us exactly where that come from, and we may ask him tomorrow, as Terry White will be in the museum talking to you about he wanted to talk more thermal protection system. He's going to talk about a door that we're now displaying in our workers gallery that is in the aft section of the shuttle. And I saw where that belongs over the weekend, looking up at Atlantis at the Saturday Night One Space party that I'll reprise maybe a little bit on Thursday about for us on Stay Curious. So thank you, Marty. Thank you, Raj, for helping us with our program here. Again, I can't tell you how important it is that you buy something at this museum. It will help us immensely, but also add something to your little mantle there. If you're women and men collect space memorabilia, okay, sort of male dominated like many collection things, I would guess, but regardless, get a late Father's Day present for somebody, or not too early to buy something. I know people buying Christmas and putting it up right now. So glad that you all joined us today. I don't have a slide to brag about. Our friend Terry White will be on tomorrow. He's the guy with the handlebar mustache. And all we did last month was literally turn the mic on, and you guys had all kinds of questions for him as we talked about the chin of the shuttle up there at the nose, an important piece of insulation, thermal protection system, I should say. And so, Terry, we're looking forward to you tomorrow, but we're also looking forward to the launch of Axiom 4 tonight at 2:31. Going to lose some sleep. That's definitely one you don't wake up. Can't go to bed at midnight and wake up at 2 to go out to the dock to watch it launch. Probably where I'll do it. I'm going to be staying up all night and dragging in here tomorrow, but hopefully it'll be worth it. We need to get them up there. The little problem with the Zevda module's been analyzed and is good to go up there. That's been the last thing they're looking at. Mitch Rothman, thank you for your support. And Godspeed, Peggy Whitson and these 3 new rookie astronauts as they embark on the journey of their life, a 2-week mission or so to the International Space Station by the company Axiom. Peggy's second trip for Axiom up there as commander, and we wish her well and Godspeed. So until tomorrow, I'm Mark Marquette saying, hope you like my Hubble t-shirt here, and I hope to see you tomorrow to bridge the space between us. Thank you so much.